Hi, Ann Cornick from Paintnporcelain. I'm here to teach beginners how to get started in China painting and also to recruit experienced painters to paint along with us and help us with the questions that come up and that sort of thing. And today we're going to do the second fire on our tulips. Really learned a lot on this plate, I have to tell you. One thing in particular, I fired this. This is my second fire, my first fire. And when I fired it, this border turned almost a yellow. I didn't care for the color at all. I had used yellow brown on it and it didn't come out the way I wanted it to. So I want to make it clear this is an ochre, like golden ochre. Rins or Ryans, whatever you want to call them, the old paint company, they had a golden ochre. And the Maryland China has a yellow ochre that you can use that's sort of similar. I mean, that'll give you some of it. And then, or you can just use plain old ochre. But what you want is that gorgeous golden honey kind of color, that warm color. You don't really want a yellow here. Okay. The other thing I did that I learned on this plate was I had two places. I went through, you have to do the border. So I realized I had to do the border and fire it for the second time, before we did the second fire on the tulips, because it was just getting in the way. So, when you do that, you have to go through and dip your brush in like a turpentine or mineral spirits, really clean it very dry, and then pull out any of the background color that gets on your tulips and your leaves. Well, I don't know if you can see it, but here and here, I had two places where I actually dropped some of the mineral spirits, and I didn't pay attention to it. I put it in the kiln and I fired it and I got it out, and here are these two huge blotches on there. Like, one was a dot, not bad, but the other one was like had spread, and there was some paint buildup around the edge and everything, and I was devastated. So I learned how to patch, because I don't think you can really tell too much that it was patched, and I don't even think by the time I get the next fire on that you'll see it at all. And what I did was this. And I know there are a lot of people that just think wink is horrible, terrible, awful. But this is what I learned, and this is what works for me. My mother had this stuff. It's called Wink Rust and Stain Remover. It is very caustic, and you do have to be very careful with it. I don't use very much, and I never touch it, so I don't get exposed to anything that's in it. What I did was I took off the cap, and it has a little squirt bottle kind of top on it. And I just put a drop or two in the cap, okay? Then I took my Q-tip and I dipped it in the cap and got it on my Q-tip. And I just started on my plate wiping like this. Almost like this was a brush. And I was just wiping on here, okay, like this. And I did the same thing over here, wiped, until it got to be almost like when I take my brush and I wipe off the paint, and you know how it's like white in the middle and then it fades into the darker color on the edges? That's what it looked like. So I wiped it all until there were parts where the paint was raised. I got rid of that. And I just wiped it until it was very smooth. Then I took a dry brush and I used this brush, which is a rounded edge brush, the ones I really like. But I didn't dip it in anything. I used a dry brush. So just like this, I put it in my paint and I just started gently brushing over that same area until I got it covered. And then wherever it was a little too heavy, like here, it didn't have anything. So that covered well. But then as you got into the areas that I hadn't removed any paint, it was a little heavy. So I did what they call rouging, which Cheryl Meggs recently mentioned, and I had almost forgotten about it, where you use your finger and you just sort of rub, almost like in the old days, you used to put rouge on. And it was a liquid, and now I think you can get it now that way too. And you just rubbed it on your cheek. It's the same idea. You rub the paint into the plate, and that's how you get the plate really, you know, so that you don't see any of these lines. So that's what I did, and then I fired it. And I'm pretty happy with the results. So for those of you that have that happen to you, now after I put the wink on it, by the way, I missed a step. I did take and I took it to the sink and I rinsed it really well, and I used soap and water, washed it off, stopped the caustic from doing any more damage to the china. And it really didn't lift any of the glaze or anything. It's not that, when you use a Q-tip, it's not that caustic. But anyway, that's what I did. And I'm pretty pleased with the result. You really almost can't tell that I had any problems on here at all. Okay. We're going to use the same colors pretty much as last time, mixing yellow and blood red. We have chartreuse and shading green. We aren't going to use those as much this time. We used them more last time. The silver gray we will use, but then this time we're going to use more of the moss or grass green, whatever you have available, and black green to do the leaves. Alrighty, so this time I'm going to be using my number 10 brush. This is a quill brush. I really like it. Last time, you remember, I couldn't get my quill brush to get the paint on dark enough. And so I used what they call a metal ferrule, which has the metal barrel on it like this. But this time I discovered that I had this brush in my possession, and it works really well, so I was real pleased with it. And as I said, I've already done the second fire on the banding, so we don't have that to worry about. Okay, I'm going to dip into my yellow and full load, side load with my red, my blood red, and I'm just going to start on my tulips. And I think I will start on this one kind of like we did the last time. I'm going to make the inside here a little darker. Pull it up, make it a little darker. Oh, sorry, I want to make sure you can see there. And then I'm going to go to the outside, and I'm going to start. You notice my strokes are nice and long on this. This is a tulip. Tulips are not restricted like some of the plants are. They're long. They're really a nice, smooth petals and things like that. So in order to get it smooth like that, I really think you need to do the longer strokes. And now I'm just going into my blood red, and then I'm going to hit the blood red again down here because we want a little depth at the bottom, a little depth there. And then I'm going to put a little color on the edges here. I'm going to fly them out to the sides. I want them to be crisp. And I think here I'm going to do the same thing up the middle. I'm going to come right up here. Oh, I need a little more color. The reason I'm putting more color on, I know it doesn't show right now, is because I'm going to be taking my Paintnporcelain, and I'm just going to go up in here and very gently bring back. Can you see what I'm doing? It's really, I'm just going to bring back some of that. Here, let me turn it this way. Maybe you can bring back a little bit of that edge there that was there before. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing right here. Yep. There we go. There. And I'm going to do the same thing over on this side a little bit. And I think I'm going to get rid of this line. I don't particularly care for that line there, so we'll get rid of it. I'm going to add a little more depth right here. Oh, that's a little too much. There we go. Okay. Now we're going to go to the middle tulip. Oh, let me just, I want a little more there. Okay, so I got that one done. Now we're going to go to the middle tulip. And the middle tulip, I'm really trying to get a pattern in the center of it. I didn't have a lot of luck. It fired out a lot, but this I'm taking short strokes, little C strokes, trying to build up a pattern in the center there. Take a little bit of the yellow and a little bit of that, and I'm going to go a little darker over here. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm just going to put a little bit of color. Oh, let me get a little better color there. And get a little bit of color on this side. And then I'm going to do the middle part. So in here, see, I've done my outside. Now remember, this is like a rose. You do the outside petals, and then you're going to do the inside petals, and the inside petals are going to be darker because, like a rose, they have that shadow on them, and then you can just pull it down a little bit, just a tad. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of depth right here because sometimes the color cooperates with you, sometimes it doesn't. There we go. And I'm just going to wipe this one up this way a little. Okay. So that's my second rose. Okay. I'm going to clean my brush because I've been using the same brush with the same colors on it for a while. And I'm just going to redo it. Every once in a while, you kind of need to get all the colors out of your brush so that the colors are fresh again. And I'm going to put a little more yellow on here because I do want a little more yellow here. And then I'm going to take and put my blood red in. So I'm working here, here. Part of the reason I'm using this brush is because it tends to smooth everything out. And I really felt like some of this looked a little choppy. You know, sometimes when you fire colors, they fire a little choppy. They don't fire quite as smooth as you'd like them to. And if you have a brush that kind of helps smooth things out, that's great. Again, long strokes on the side. And then I'm going to turn it upside down. We always paint towards ourselves if you're a new painter. And long strokes this way. The reason I turn my brush over, see this side has the paint, this side doesn't, is because I wanted to do something without the paint on it, and so I turned it over. And that's my bud. Actually, I think my bud turned out pretty decent. And now, I'm going to go back and make sure that I've got things wiped out where I need them. I find that if you put a little bit of your lightest color, not enough to give it color, on your brush with a little oil and then pat it and do it, you don't run the risk of that horrible blotchiness that you get when you accidentally put on too much of the mineral spirits. You know how sometimes it gets on there and then it starts to run. You don't want that, so this will help you. I'm just trying to clean up a few places here. And then I think here I'm just going to take some color off, pull some color down. There we go. I think I can even pull a little color down that way there. Give me a little more there. I want it to have a little more lightness, I think. Okay. All right, I'm not going to play anymore. You know, sometimes the longer you play, the worse it gets. So now we're going to go to the leaves. Last week I used the rounded edge brush and I really liked it. And I'm going to try to do some of it with the square brush this week, and then we'll see if we can do the rounded edge brush. But I'm going to be using mainly moss green. You see how I have the chartreuse already in there? It's already laid in. So I don't really need to put more chartreuse in. I think what I'm going to do is go with the moss green, and I'm just going to start and edge down that leaf so that you can really see where the edge of it is. Then I'm going to pull some of this moss green up this way. Up. There we go. And I'm going to take some of the moss green down this way. Oh yeah, I think I might do better with my rounded brush. Let me try my rounded brush. Oh yeah. This rounded brush is great. And you can just wipe it off and then pull it down. It really gets the color pretty much just the way you want it. And then you can go into your, I'm going to be using a black green and shading green. So I'm going to start with a little shading green, add a little black green to it. And we're going to do a little bit up in here. The only thing is you don't get a nice clean edge with this. I'm working my way around. I'm working my way around this tulip. It's always a little difficult. Ah. Let me get the color back up in there. There we go. And again, a little shading green, a little black green. And I'm going to come down on the inside here. Ah, need a little more oil. Inside here. Long strokes. Okay, that's one leaf down. Yay! I think I'm going to put a little shading green here. Okay. So that's the middle leaf down. Now I'm going to do this leaf because they touch right here. And I want to make sure that when I define them, I think you'll see what I'm trying to do. It's kind of hard to see otherwise. So let's start with the shading green, black green. And I'm just going to go up here under that. They're real long strokes. Very long strokes. I'm using the black green here. You're attempting things. I'm going to go now to this brush because it's harder with the number 4 to really get those lines the way I want them. So I'm switched over to my number 10. Oops. Black green. There we go. And then I'm going to switch this way so I can get the outside edge of this. And I want a little more black. Oops, not quite that much. I know it's going to be way too much up in here. And then I'm going to need a little bit of black green up on this guy, and this is going to be tricky. So I'm going to, oh, can you see what I'm doing here? I'm going to start up here, and I'm just going to let it fall over. I come down, Come up. And you have to be able to see what you're doing and understand what you're doing. If it doesn't make sense to you, it's not gonna. This leaf is going to be the death of me, I think. There, I see it. Okay. Okay, and then we're just going to put a little dark up in here. There we go. Starting to make more sense to me now. Can you see? I'm sorry. There we go. Every once in a while you get one of those that just does not want to cooperate with you. And you have to remember they go up and down. They curl around. Let's do it on this side here. There we go. Now we're getting there. And then I just want to put a little bit of wipeout in here. That's a little better. A little bit of wipeout down here. Okay. And we'll pull this darker color up in there a little more. And I'm just going to get a little bit so it flips. There. See how I did that? I just put a little dark under there and it flipped it. Yay, finally. Sometimes when you put in your first fire and you get it out of the kiln, you forget what the heck you did on it. And that, I think, is what happened there. Okay, now we're going to go down to this leaf down here. This leaf is pretty easy. We're going to take a full load of moss, a side load of the black green, and I'm just going to do the bottom here. Isn't that feeling nice? And then I'm going to do up near the top here. And then I'm going to pull up. Can you see? Yeah, you can see. I'm trying to monitor what you're seeing, and it's not always easy. I'm going to pull up this way like this from here. There we go. Get a little more of the black. Here we go. And then I'm going to put a little more of the black back here too, coming down. And then wipe it off really well and wipe off some of that. I'm going to switch to a smaller brush and put a little more of the moss green on. I'm using this one. It's a 1/4 inch. My little ferrule. I like it. Pulling it over the top of that there. And I'm going to pull a little down right here. A little more dark. You've got to understand what it is you're doing. If it doesn't make sense to you, it's going to be difficult. Then you know what you do. You stop and you start over another day. But if you understand it, then you can continue on. So if you get to the point where you were like me right there, where I was having some difficulty understanding these guys, what you need to do is you need to stop, set it down, and then get going. Like there, I just realized if I put a little dark there, that will help. And if I put a little dark up here, that may help too. There we go. Okay. We still have this leaf to go, and we have the shadow there. I'm going to take a little silver gray and just put it on there. So we have that leaf, so we don't lose that leaf. pull it this way. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll make sure you can see. You know, it's easier. I paint in my lap most of the time at home. So for me to hold it up and paint is always an exciting experience because it's not intuitive for me. That's not the way I normally paint. There, I just added a little more color to that. We want to be able to see it. This one I think is okay. I might just put a little more gray here at the bottom. So we can see it a little better. And then I have this one. I'm going to take, this time I'm going to mix the chartreuse with a little moss green and go up this way. We're going to start up at the top. So see what I've done so far. This is the gray. I put a little gray on that, added a little gray to the bottom of this one, just so that they show up. And then this guy, we're going to start way back here. And work our way up. Chartreuse full loads, side load, moss green or grass green, whatever you have. Okay, I've gotten that much done. Now I'm going to come down this side. And I want a little more color here at the base. Oop. Not that much. There we go. Okay, got the green on there. Now I'm going to take my shading green, maybe a little moss green, and a side load of black green, and I'm going to start here. This, if you recall, was my curvy leaf. So I've done the one side. Then we go over and just sort of, it's almost like you're outlining it. But at the same time, you're trying to pull down, get those nice smooth strokes in there. This is that curvy leaf. And this was right off my tulips in the back. I mean, that's exactly what they looked like. They had this little curve to them. So I've got that curve. Now I'm going to go around this side because you see you've got it real dark here, real light there. And that's not the way you really want it to look. Oh, you know what I just noticed here? I could probably add a little dark and it would help. See how that helped? Yeah, you just have to keep looking at things and seeing where you need to add these little lines and things to help separate. You have to outline your tulip, but at the same time you want to add some color to it. You want to also get some of that depth on there. So you're going to do those nice long lines. And you're just going to kind of keep playing with them until you get them exactly the way you want them. I think I want a little more dark down here. Maybe not that much dark. My black green tends to go on very dark. And I pulled it, and I think I'm kind of happy with that now. I'm going to wipe it off and just pull out some of the color here. Press, lift, press, lift. That helps you to lift the color out there. Okay, so now the last thing we have to do, I'm pretty happy with these. I may go back, like here, you know, the longer I look at it, the more I think, a little black green maybe just like this would help a lot. Or maybe a little black green right here would help a lot. You just need to keep playing. Add just a little, see if you like it. If you don't, you can take it off. Remember, this is China paint. China paint's easy. You can take the color off if you don't like it. Here, I think I need a little more definition. There. Okay, so you just keep playing. Here, I think I need to take a little of that off. There. Smooth it out a little bit. Okay, we still have the stems to do. You really can't see the inside of the tulip too much, so we aren't really doing much of that with this tulip. That's the reason I chose it for beginners. I thought, well, if you're going to play with a tulip for the first time, you probably don't want one that has too much that you have to worry about. I start by putting a little blood red on my liner, and I'm just going to add a little bit of detail around the tulip up here. I might do the same thing right here. Maybe a little right here, a little here, a little there. Okay, and then you're going to take your red, you're going to mix it with your black, or the black is kind of harsh. Let's mix it with the moss green and the red. And you're going to put your stems back in so that you didn't lose them. Then we'll do this last one here, same thing. I'm doing the mixing a little bit of red in because I noticed these tulips were from my yard, and I noticed that they actually had a little red in the stem. And I was shocked. Oops, I missed where the stem was there. Now let's go back and take it out. Use a dry brush and put the stem back where it should be. Right? There. And then I will clean it up using a dry brush too. Here we go. There. Okay. I wouldn't touch this on this time. If you have white and you want to play with a little white, you could add a little white up in here. You know, that's entirely up to you. Probably if I had white on my palette right now, I would play with it a little bit. I am going to take a little bit of the dark and put right on the tip here so it shows. And you're just going to want to look at things, decide, you know, is this enough color? Do you need to add a little more color? Like here, I'd like a little more color. My other one, this is the 3 fires. Now, I don't know if we need 3 fires. If it fires exactly the way it looks, I'd be happy with it. This has metallic on it. Of course, you can't eat off of a plate with metallic on it, but I just wanted to play with the metallic to see. And the metallic I used is golden bronze metallic, and it's from Sharon Steen. And I don't know if this is still made or not, but I have to say I had 2 coats of that golden ochre underneath, and then I put this over it, and I really, really, really like it. So you can see how it looks. If you missed any of my early, you know, painting sessions, you can go on YouTube and pick them all up there. They're all right there for you. So, okay, pick up those brushes, keep painting, and I will see you next time. I hope you enjoyed the program. And I hope you'll take a minute to subscribe so that other people can learn more about China painting and we can get the word out to more people. You also can look at the links below. My Paintnporcelain.com website has a lot of freebies and printables for new and experienced painters, as well as studies, supplies, and even some of my hand-painted china. So thank you again, and I'll see you next time.